Wow, it's good to see so many people. What a beautiful bunch of faces there. I'm sorry about the delay in getting started. It wouldn't let me in. Apparently, I'm not good enough. So, fine. Well, everybody ready for some? You ready for some football? I mean, some Tai Chi? Excellent, excellent. I have a couple of um more cameras to figure out here. So the first thing we got to do is figure out um, whether all the cameras are pointing the same way. So you can see me over here at my desk, right? Which arm does that look like to you?
Left.
That
Left.
looks like left arm. All right, so let's do this. First of all, let's. How's that look?
Right.
Right.
Right. And how about that arm?
Your left, my right.
Left.
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 That looks like left
Left.
to you.
Left.
That's your right.
That's my right.
Our left.
Okay.
It's right. It's your
Nope.
right.
That would be mirror image.
Well, I'm facing you. Right?
Yes.
So-
Yes.
To
Okay.
him and telling him how, just tell him that's your left.
Yeah, that's his
Oh,
right that he's raising.
that's my right. Okay.
Yeah.
So there we go. All right. So
No,
then
No, no.
That was your left.
that was your left.
Our
Oh,
right.
baby. Hey, June's out there somewhere.
Oh.
Just don't run over.
so this
Left.
looks like
Left.
My right, your left.
It's his left.
It's your left.
It's his left arm. His left arm.
Right arm.
Our left. Your right arm.
Don't
Don't confuse
confuse
him.
him.
I'm his sidekick for this. He knows to trust me.
Okay.
so what arm do you, so what arm does this look like to you?
Your right arm.
Right.
Right arm.
Right.
Okay. And then
Yay.
finally,
Your
Your left arm.
hallelujah. Hallelujah. All right. Well, okay. I'm coming back then and we'll get this party started. Dun-dun-dun. Well, today, first day of a class I haven't taught for, gosh, I don't know how long. It may not be something I've taught since before I had my throat cut. For those of you who don't know, several years ago, I had a tumor removed from my cheek here, my chin. And at that time, we had quite a robust school going. And just on doctor's advice and the fact that I was not feeling it, we shut down. And I don't think we've taught 24 form since then. So it's been a long time. 24 form, though, used to be my bread and butter. So I've done 24 form more than I've done just about anything else in my life. And that includes marriage and children. I'm going to push the record button here so that I can once again officially say welcome everybody to the first day of the 24 form traditional class. And I'm intending to have a rockin' good time. I don't know about y'all, but you can take care of yourselves. How about that? I did want to spend some time making sure we had all the cameras set up properly so that We didn't stuck in the middle. But here's what I've got planned for the first session. So the first session, I'm going to do a bit of a demonstration as best I can. This class will go on for almost 4 months, I think. I'm anticipating that we'll spend about 16 weeks learning all the movements. Some of the movements are small, some of the movements don't really need their own full session. So we'll get it all done in 16 weeks. But during that 16 weeks, the weather will get better, and I'll be able to take the cameras outside, see the whole enchilada in a lot of space here. Today, what I'm going to do is do a modified version for you. You'll be able to see the basic choreography. And then when we get outside, we will do it then section by section. So we'll have plenty of room for each section there. You probably need about 15 feet of linear space to be able to do the full choreography of the 24 form. But there's so many different ways that you can modify this, and we'll use them all during this class. So let's just start. You guys sit back, pop a beer. I'm going to do a little demo for you, and then we'll come back and we'll chat a bit, and then we'll get up and we'll do a first couple of moves. That's what I got planned, and then we'll all go out for caramel corn. So I'll be over there. Just hang out. I'm inspired to do one more thing here. And I can't do it because it doesn't think I'm the host. Wah. We'll get that sorted before the next class. All right, here we go.
Do you want a spotlight?
I do. Of course I do. I would love to, except that I can't because it doesn't think I'm the host.
Uh-oh.
So y'all will have to just pin me where you on your screens. Oh, this is. See my good side for today's demonstration here. I'll try that one more time from a different angle. And that is more or less that.
DDR, that was gorgeous. I am not sure if you were actually recorded. In fact, I know you weren't. there was a sound in Judith's room, and so it popped over to her, and people couldn't see you the second time that you did it, okay?
Oh,
But that was just
Okay.
the second time. The first time it was recording you, and then the second time it popped over to her. So, just to let you know.
thank you. Fear not though, because I have a backup recording that I'm doing here from the camera itself. And I don't know what we've programmed it to record multiple screens. So I've got the gallery view and so I think we've got a good backup there.
Okay, good, because that was beautiful. I'd love to see it in the recording. Dance with you. Yeah, okay.
DDR,
Yes.
I've made you the host.
Oh, oh, you did.
Yes.
Oh. Well, hallelujah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Super. Well, thoughts, questions, requests, last chance to escape, all those kinds of things. So, hey, Kuzmina, hi, I haven't seen you forever.
Hi everyone, nice to see you, nice to be back. First of all, it's amazing. It was beautiful because you were doing the seizing the bird's tail, and as you're doing the loo, we see the sign of the yin yang that is behind you, and it's like it was just perfect. I'm like, wow, it's like he's throwing it like as he's dancing. Yeah. So I have like a general question because I did a 9 form. So which style is this one versus the 9 form? Because it felt different, your hips. I saw your hips, and then I have another question after this.
So that's a very interesting question. Both of those forms, the 9 form and the 24 form, are number one, recent choreographies, meaning the 24 form is about 75 years old, maybe. And the 9 form, I think, is about 16 or 17 years old. Now, the 24 form is based on the movements mostly of the Yang family style, but it wasn't developed by the Yang family. It was developed by committee. And some of the members of the committee selected which particular movements that they were going to use in the choreography, and mostly adhered to Yang style. And I'll tell you more about the history of this as we go along, but just to answer your question, the 9 form was developed by the Yang family. Specifically, I think it was 2008, there was an international conference on Tai Chi, and one of the goals was to try to make Tai Chi easier for people to learn. And their solution, I mean, if they had asked me, I could have told them, but they didn't ask me. Their solution was, we'll just make shorter routines, and that will make it easier for people to learn. And I mean, there's a certain logic to it, but it just wasn't the answer. Each style, then, each family made their contribution to a shorter routine, and the 9 form was the Yang family's contribution.
The hips movement seems different as I'm looking at it, as I'm practicing. Yeah. And then another one, I watched a video of yours when you're dressed in white on a white background. I don't know who came up with that one. So I think it was like last year. Yeah, you shot at that one like last year. But anyway, my question is, you're extremely low to the ground in that video. Like you're really, really sunk into your posture. Is that like an ideal, or you remember which, you know which video I'm referring to? Yeah, you're super low, yeah, to the ground.
That was just a younger version of myself showing off. I mean, that's
Yeah, last year. It was last year. I'm sure it was last year.
That was, I think we published it we re-released it last year, but that was shot in, I think, like 2008, 2009 or 2. We were in Southern California, and we were in a photography studio. And so that white background was a backdrop in the photography studio. And I just thought it would be interesting to wear the white silks to do that. And it gave sort of this ghostly kind of ambiance to it.
No, but my question is because you are very, very low and your step seems like huge because you're like just flowing like the whole time, but your posture is so low and your step is like so long and so elegant. It's kind of like you're on ice. To
Yes.
me, it gave me the impression like you're on ice and like how you're stepping. So my question is like, is it ideal to be like lower into the stance so you can step farther out, or?
It depends upon what your purpose in your practice is at that moment. So when I was competing, that would have gotten me high marks, right? So to be that low, very, very stylized to do that. And so these two things, the long steps and the low postures, go together. If you are in control of your hip height and you sink down low, then it facilitates these really long steps, right? The thing is, you have to be strong enough to be able to pull in the back foot when you make your changes without your hips going up and down, right? So I, at one time in my life, was really, really good at that. That was, something that's why I did well in competition. From a traditional Tai Chi point of view, it is not so much how deep you go, how low you go. It is the control. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you go down a 5 centimeters, right? And then, but stay at that level, because it's the up and down that does what they call uprooting yourself, your chi rising and falling. And so you want your chi to be stable. Does that make sense?
It
And
makes sense because it's the same with the brain waves. You don't want to go from alpha, beta, gamma to the other ones. You just want to stay in one range. So it makes
in
sense
one-
for the levels in the body. Yeah.
Right. And I'll give you one more hint. And again, this is a trick that performers and competitors use. So the outfit, right, drapes over your shoes. Like, if you go back and you watch that video again, you'll see that there's a bit of a blousing at the ankle. And when you do that, in combination with that controlled hip level and sort of you don't take your foot as very far off the ground. You try to just like skim over the top of the ground. It literally looks like you're floating. And then everybody in the stands go, ooh, and the judges go, 9.
Yeah, thank you so much. Because I'm watching the videos when they gave you that tight, the black one when you're like, the kid size, and it looks like it's a different style. It's not a different style. It's just that you cannot move in.
So for those of you,
Style.
the real quick story, and then I know Adele's got a question,
Thank you.
and there's some more out there. So when I went to work with Jet Li, I went to Beijing, and we'd been doing a lot of our prep work long distance. Like, we zoomed, from Beijing to my home in California and back and forth like this. And so when I got there for the first time, and I had sent them my measurements, but anybody who's ever like ordered from Alibaba knows that Chinese measurements are way different than American measurements. And so I got there, and they had tailored this outfit for me to wear for the program. And it was so tight. It was so tight, I could barely move. And so I'm trying to like do these steps and everything. And I was praying that I wouldn't have this rip in my crotch at any moment. It just like, it was super tight. Yeah. Yeah, Adele. Hi.
Hi, I have a question, but that was really great. I have wondered about your level before, and the up and down makes so much sense. And I don't know why I've never heard that before in all our discussions. So thank you for that. Were you starting the 24 on the left?
No.
You were actually
So-
starting on the right.
So in my studio, I was starting to the right side of the studio here. The 24 form is this has a lot to do with, again, your stance control. And if you're able to really take control of how long your steps are consistently, the consistency of the length of your steps, then this form pretty much returns to its beginning point. So wherever you started to open the door, then you'll close the door at just about the same spot. I found over the years that that's not exactly that true. So at the very end, you have to cheat a little bit, but that's not difficult to do. You just know where you're at, and then you take, one bigger step or one smaller step, depending on where you're at, and you wind up in the same spot. So in that ideal 15-foot length there, you start slightly to the right of the midpoint, right? So like, instead of being right at 7.5 feet, in the length of your room, you'll start at maybe 6.5, right? And then you progress down and progress back. Yeah. So one of the things that we're going to learn in this routine is that the 24 form is a sort of, although made by committee, there was some pretty good logic in the way that they did it. And they broke down the routine into 4.5 sections. 4.5? Yeah, 4.5 sections. And each section is more or less the same number of steps. So we will begin from right to left going down, and then we'll return from left back to right again. Then there's a section which is sort of like running in place. And then you go back down and return, and then a half a section that will finish it up, bringing you back to where you're closing the door / open the door position is. Super. Oh, good. These are great questions. What else?
I noticed the single whip is done twice on the same side. Is that was just part of the way that it got it to work? Yes.
In this routine, single whip bookends cloud hands. So you do a single whip, and then you do cloud hands, and then you do another single whip. Tink, yes.
Yeah, I've heard you talk before about ways to shorten that, but I've never seen it done. So it was really good to see that, how you did like the 1 instead of the 3 and the 2 instead of the 4 and that sort of thing. So thank you for that. That was very helpful, because I have a 24 form class, and it's a small room, so I can adapt this to it. And that's really great. It's very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, there's a million and one ways of adapting to the space that you're in. And I wonder, now I've had a chance to meet some of the people who are members of that committee, but I didn't have the chance to ask them all my questions. In traditional, like old school Chinese martial arts and Tai Chi especially, you have to have a fairly special relationship with the teacher in order to be able to ask questions, right? If you are a complete noob, complete bozo, complete like Westerner who they don't expect anything of, you can ask all kinds of inappropriate questions, and they might give you an answer, or they might just, kind of like humor you. When they know that you're a serious student, but you haven't yet really become their favorites, you don't get to ask questions. You just take what you get, right? But if you stick around long enough and you show enough respect and homage and whatever else this particular teacher is fond of, Then they get to a point where they sort of let their guard down and you're able to ask, all kinds of things. I've had teachers like that I had a chance. And a lot of the stuff that I share with you guys that are like small nuances and subtleties are things that I learned from those teachers who let me in and, gave me some real insights. So I am not sure if the committee members deliberately created a routine foreseeing the need for modifications. And the reason why this is a question in my mind, because the 24 movement routine itself was already thought to be a modified routine, the 24 movements. So it'd be interesting to go, okay, this is our modified version. This is the 24. This is the simplified version, but some people may be too stupid to even get that. So we'll build it in so that they can make it even dumber. Like that's a possibility. Josie, yes.
Well, I want to say you've always been accessible and easy to talk to since day one for me 4 years ago. So thank you for that. My question is, are there variations of the 24 form? Because I've been playing it for about 9 years and it's completely symmetrical. Like you only did one snake creeps down and it was all the same moves, but just different, just presented differently.
Well, today I took moves out. I took steps out just because of the space. And one way that I've done this in the past is to like do all of the moves, but then I would have to stop and reposition and then do the next. And I didn't want to do that today. I wanted to, give you guys a sense of the flow of the whole routine.
Oh, okay. Thank you. It's beautiful. Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here.
I'm really glad that all of you guys are here, actually. I do want to say something, just my position as a practitioner, performer, and teacher is that I don't care what it looks like, and I don't care what, what variation of movements or the routine that you do, right? I don't think that actually is important. However, I get asked all the time about my version of the 24 form. And people ask me, well, I did the 24 form with a different teacher and they do these movements really different. And I'm like, that's fine. Here's the thing. I trained with the people who made it. And I'm doing my best to adhere to their version of the 24 form. Just like once you've done it, then I recommend that you break it and do all kinds of other creative things with it. But if you go, well, how come I saw, somebody else do it differently? It's like, I don't know. There's nothing wrong with that. If you're wondering who's right, that's a contextual question. What's right is what works, or what's right is what represents a certain model that you're trying to portray. Does that make sense? And so beyond those two contexts is like, it doesn't matter.
Like this is closer to the source. I mean, that's why I wanted to take it with you. So thank you.
You're welcome. And by the way, things get a lot sloppier the older I get. So but I'm not the only one. Like the great granddaddy of modern Yang style Tai Chi, Yang Chen Fu, was, like 400 pounds and could barely lift his leg by the time he was at the end of his life. And he was super sloppy. And he was the guy who made it up. So there's a video floating around, maybe I'll bring it in one day, of his son performing Tai Chi when he was an old man. And he's all bent over and hunched and doing this really big lean and everything. And I've read all these comments on like, see, this is the way you're supposed to hollow your chest. And I'm like, no, he's fucking old. That's why, right? So just, here's the rule that the real point that I'm trying to make here. We talked about this in the essentials class the other day, that no matter what you know and what you've learned, you always do your Tai Chi with the body that you brung with you today. That's the bottom line there. Okay. Well, why don't we get up and we will, well, I'm going to do a little breakdown of the first couple of movements. Y'all can follow me if you like. Let's put it that way. Like that. Oh, I am the host now. I can do the thing here. All right. So as you're watching me do the performance of the routine, most people's reaction is something along the lines of, holy cow, that's like, that's so much. How am I ever going to learn that? And if you were to count out all of the, individual movements or individual postures throughout this whole routine, it comes out to about 130 different movements from beginning to end. But the good news is that they are all based on a very small number of basic positions of the hands and feet. And those of you who've been in any of my other classes, even if it's just the studio classes, you've done these over and over again. So really quickly, let's just do these together. The first basic position is something we're going to call the T-step, which is just like standing on one foot and the other foot just like lightly touching the ground. This isn't even really a stance per se. It's more like, like a place where you can always catch your balance. Like in the middle of any other movement, you can always come here to catch your balance and then proceed. And you can do the T-step, on either foot. The main thing here is that all the weight's really on one foot. You're just basically standing on one foot. The other foot's just, there for a little bit of support. T-step. Very closely related to the T-step is what's known as the empty step. So the empty step is just like the T-step, except that the empty foot is out in front, right? And that is like one walking pace distance. So if I'm just walking along and I stop, right, there's my empty step distance. The weight is still, 85% in the back foot, and 10 to 15% on the ball of the empty foot here. Right? In traditional Yang family, there's a little bit more of a grounding into that front balled foot at the end of the position. For example, one of the first moves in this routine is crane spreads wings, right? And in traditional Yang style, here I am, I've made my empty step here, but then as I finish up, it sort of grounds into that front foot. Now that's not a characteristic of the 24 form. That's a characteristic of the longer traditional routine. But so we have T-step, we have empty step, and then we have bow step, which like the bow and the bow and arrow, which is our big long lunge position here. Both knees are bent. The front toe points down towards your imaginary target, and your back foot pivots inward at about 45 degrees. So, and of course, these can be done on either foot. So that's how you, a basic position of the hands that we'll do over and over again is this round holding the ball. Bao Chou means to hold the ball, or Bao Yue means to hold or embrace the moon. Yeah, meaning moon. So this is embracing the moon. And we're going to do this like over and over and over again. And there are two ways to do this. In the beginning, for beginners, it's like you have, a ball that is consistent shape, and you roll that ball around. You're not making the ball any different shape, so that when I'm halfway through, I have measured out my own torso. And when I'm finished, the top hand is right across my shoulders and the bottom hand is right across my belt line, right across my hips. And then I'm going to do it again. And so I'm just rolling that ball around. But the other way to do this, and this is when you've got a little bit more moves under your belt, so to speak, it pulses. And so this expands and then comes back together, and expands and comes back together. This is a kind of a technique that we call chosu, which means to wave the silk. So there's a lot of sort of wavy motions in my Tai Chi, especially. This is sort of my style in particular, is to do a lot of chosu. Every student picks up something from their teacher, right? Something of their style. So I picked up a lot of things from my teachers over the years that I adopted into my style. This is sort of my style that a lot of my students, if you watch them, they say, your hands are always so, hula. And this is my characteristic called chosu. All right. We begin with the feet together, hands relaxed by your sides, right? And this hands relaxed by your sides is not stiff. They're just dangling, right? They're just dangling down by your sides. And then the left foot, I'm going to change the camera here in a second, but I just want you to watch this. The left foot will step to the left, and I will meet the ground with the ball of my foot. So as I step out, the ball of my foot touches first and then settles 50-50. Right? My weight is equally divided. Stepping out and settle 50-50. Now, after you've stepped out, I'm going to modify this in a second here. After you step out, the hands float up. Right? And the elbows are droopy. And then the elbows droopy, go down. And here's what Cosmina was asking about at the very beginning. How far down do you go? It doesn't matter. But whatever level you get to on this first movement, this now is your benchmark. Okay, so here we are, feet together, hands relaxed by your sides. The left foot steps to the left. Does that still look like left foot to you? Yes. All right, good.
Yes.
Both hands float up. Elbows are droopy, and then everything sinks down. And this is called opening the door, right? Or it's called, actually, it's not called opening the door. It's called go. You can call it opening the door. So feet together, hands relaxed by your sides. Left foot steps to the left. Center. Both hands float up. Everything floats down. Opening the door. Okay. Do that a couple times. So Brenda, your hands don't need to come down that far. If you get up to here when the arms raise, at this point, the whole idea about the droopy elbows is that you have in this position established the shape of your arms. And so when you sink down, the shape of the arms doesn't change. like they don't extend down or reach out. They are the same shape all the way down. So it's really like you're riding an elevator. Better, much better. If you're one of those people and you're like, but his hands seem to go lower, how does he do that? Right? It is rotating on the shoulder joint, not on the elbow joint, right? So here they are. I'm going down. It's the shoulder that allows a little bit of vertical movement. Yes, 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 yes. And so by the time you're finished, here you are. And here's the thing about that. What is the next movement after opening the door is catching the moon, bao yue, right? And so by the time you're finished here, at the end of opening the door, here's the bottom of the ball. Here's the bottom of the moon. It's just right there. If you let your arms reach out, it's like, okay, I dropped the ball. We'll have time for just this one more move today, and then we'll pick it up next week. All right, so in preparation for my opening the door, my weight very subtly shifts into my right foot. Now, you don't really see a big, I do this a lot in the flow class. I'll exaggerate these movements and exaggerate the weight shifts and everything. But here, you want to be almost invisible, right? It's just shifting into that right foot and then step out to the left. Now, the next movement, as I said, is to hold the ball. It's the beginning of parting the horse's mane. And one of the things I need to do is turn my right toes inward 45 degrees. If I'm going to do that, I'm going to take some weight off of it. So in the same way, I'm going to subtly shift into my left foot, pivot that right toe in, and then back to the right foot. It looks like this. It shift to the left, shift to the right, T-step. Shift into the left, turn that toe in, shift back to the right foot, T-step. Yes. Now the left foot steps out into the bow step and it lands heel first. And this is really important because in the next session, we're going to talk about the timing of getting that toe down to the ground flat. Right? The hands separate, the waist will turn, the head turns even more, parting the horse's mane. Seen from the front, open the door. Paul, I'm going to say something, and promise me that you won't report me to the authorities. But your eggs are too big. Somebody else can say, I was highly offended by it. So there's this saying in Tai Chi is like, how big should be the space under your armpits? And they always say it should be about the size of a duck egg, right? You want to put about the size of a duck egg under there. And you don't want to let the egg drop and crack on the floor, but you don't want to crush it either. So there's just enough to like sort of lightly hold that duck egg. And I'm just watching Paula as like the eggs are too big. That's all I meant. How was class today, honey? I don't know. He told some lady that her eggs were too big. I'm pretty sure that we're not coming back after.
Are you what I'm seeing on my screen? I know I'm sideways. Sorry. I don't have my other camera on. You are slightly stepping to the back, but you're
That is
going.
correct.
Okay. I just want to make
So-
sure.
If I'm here for open the door, right? If you have the opportunity to do this in the space where you're practicing, I've told this to a number of people. So Karen, I think, has done it, and she's taped out her floor, right? So there's you could tape it out in a big cross, or you could tape it out in, both cardinal and ordinal corners as well. And the main longitudinal line here is what we would call a line of travel, right? And when I'm stepping out and to open when I'm on open the door, I start out on the line, I'm still on the line, I'm still on the line, I'm still on the line. Now I have to step off of the line with the front foot in order to create this gap known as the channel. Now, the thing about the 24 form is that eventually, working your way all the way back to the beginning again, it will correct this stepping off of the line. Does that make sense, Adele?
Yeah, it does. And so, again, I was looking watching you in the beginning. So you're actually using almost 360 degrees by the time you come back.
You do. There's a very interesting move in that, half a section at the very end there, where you're literally facing away. If this is my open the door position, I'm literally facing away from that, and then it turns me around so that I'm in the right spot again.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Cosmina, last question.
Yes, sir. I'm wondering if you can exaggerate the hip motion, because it feels like I'm twisting as I'm shifting the weight, as I'm twisting the leg. It feels like I'm exaggerating. I'm twisting, twisting, and I'm twisting.
This is a good question. So some of this is knowing when to isolate a joint and when to use unified body movement. Right. So as I'm doing open the door here, and I'm just turning this right toe, I'm sort of isolating this joint only. Now, I've just done this for so long, I'm flexible enough to be able to turn that foot without going knock-kneed. So what happens if you can't turn your foot that much, if you're not that flexible? Then don't do it that much, right? And I'll tell you why. Because you have another opportunity to make it 45. And as long as we're on the topic, I'll show you when. Let's say I've done open the door and I'm just not that flexible. I can't turn my feet. I'm just going to step right from here, right? Here. At the very last, about 20% of my weight shift, I have the opportunity here to pivot on that back foot and turn those toes inward, 45. Now that's the isolation aspect of this movement. There's another rotation that happens, and it happens, in this case, not from the hips, but just from above the hips and the rest of the torso, right? So I'm here, I'm stepping. I don't have to rotate the hips because they open. Right here, my hips are open, but my torso is still pointing here. So they have articulated. Now I'm going to rotate just the torso above the hips until both the torso and the hips are pointing to 45 degrees. The head will turn more, looking down the line towards my imaginary target.
So the feet is just duck feet. We go into duck feet as we're shifting the weight, and we only twist from the hip right at the end when we step, after we empty the step. Thank you.
So yeah, this ability to know when to move as a unit and when to segment will change from technique to technique. So we've got 24 different movements in this routine, and each time they will do something different. I'm trying to think of a example of a whole body rotation that's not standing on one foot, because that's kind of cheating a little bit. But if I'm doing step up and kick with heel, right? Even though I've got only one foot on the floor, the whole body turns as a unit. Hips, body, everything is turning. But there are other movements where the hips don't turn at all. Only the torso is moving. And how do I know when to do that? You have to learn them one by one. That's part of the fun. All right, let's do this one more time, all together, singing Kumbaya, and then we'll call it a day. And we'll start with my favorite movement, sinking the chi. Breathe in. Left foot steps to the left and center. Both hands rise. And then with elbows leading, everything sinks down, opening the door. Catching the moon. Step out and Toss away, parting the horse's mane. Beautiful. Ta-da, da-da-da-da. So in our next episode, we will break down these movies a little bit more. I'll show you a couple more things about it, and we'll actually do 3 of these in a row with a new kind of transition that we've only briefly done in some of the other classes. And we'll talk all about that next time. I don't think I know anything else. Like, that's it. That's the limit of all I've ever learned. Dan's got to go to spin class. Me too. I'm going to spin my way down and pick up my kid from school. Anyway, oh, this is going to be so much fun. I'm so excited. Thank you guys for being here. I'll see you next week.